I recently married my longtime GF, 8 years, who I'll call Amy. Important context. While we have been together that whole time, the first 5 years were not exclusive, did not live together, and for 2 years were 1,200 miles apart, though we made regular visits. When she and I first met, we were both married but in open relationships. My wife, myself and Amy's husband were required to travel for extremely long periods of time, sometimes years, with minimal opportunities to return home, security contractors. Amy is an ER nurse. 3 months before she and I met, while her husband was home on a 6-month break, she met a local cop, and started a relationship with him. We'll call him Chris. He introduced her to some pretty extreme S&M and BDSM, which she found she deeply enjoyed. Unfortunately, it rapidly escalated past anything even remotely healthy, and became abusive. This rapidly began to destroy her marriage and family, and despite her husband giving her an ultimatum, she persisted. I was unaware of the abusive, obsessive nature of her relationship with Chris until Amy's husband told me. I had noticed that Amy was becoming increasingly erratic, but had no explanation. I broke it off with Amy. A month later she reached out saying she had realized how toxic the relationship was, that she had broken up with Chris, blocked him, and if I was interested would like to start seeing me again. I verified with her husband, then started sleeping with her again. This was still very much a booty call level of relationship at this point. From that point on, over the next 8 years, we would become closer and closer and eventually marry. However, about 4 years ago she mentions that he had reached out to her over some pictures she posted, unrelated, that they had a good conversation where he asked why she had broken it off with him, and they had both reached some closure. I noted that while I was glad for her, how could he have reached her if she blocked him? Her reply was that while she blocked his number she had forgotten to block him on IG. I let it go. A couple years ago in a conversation with her friend, I find out that during a medical emergency some years back, but after she supposedly blocked him, that it had actually been Chris that she called to take her into the ER and stay, not this friend. I confronted Amy. She said that when she told me she had a friend take her she just didn't think to explain who exactly. This has remained a very touchy subject for me, for all the reasons stated. We are also no longer in an open relationship, now that I have stopped traveling, among other reasons. We moved back to the area, in the same town that Chris was an officer in, about 2 years ago. A few months ago, just before we married, she commented that I could be less touchy about Chris now that we are getting married, and after all he had retired and moved to Florida, we are in Midwest. I asked how she knew that, and she stated that she read an article about his retirement. Because he retired as a lieutenant and the first K-9 officer, that was barely possible, but I was unconvinced and asked her point blank if she had been talking to him. She said no, point blank. A week ago, I was reading an article about Belgian melanosis, and saw an article about Chris attending the retirement ceremony for his former K-9. The ceremony was only 6 months ago, and would mean he was in the area until very recently. So I dug, and I'm good at it. Now I have all the dates, times, houses, etc., for the man. He retired 9 months ago, left for Florida right after the K-9 ceremony. But there is no mention in any article of him moving, and there wouldn't be since he moved well after retiring. So I confronted Amy, and this time she says Chris reached out to her out of the blue via text and they chatted. When asked how that was possible if he was blocked, she said he had a new number. We had a big fight, and I've spent a couple days considering what to do. Right now, I plan to confront her tonight. Even if it is true that she forgot to block him on IG, why did she have a conversation when he reached out? Even if she was confused and called him to go to the ER, why did she hide that from me for years? Even if he texted her, randomly, after years, after he moved to Florida, using a new number, why did she have a conversation and tell him that she now lives in town? My full intention is to ask for a divorce tonight. AIO? Edit, for those who've asked for more info, her husband and I are still close. Let's call him Dan. He is still working. The more to the story is that I had a really bad day that left me unable to keep traveling. As soon as I was home full time, and more to the point laid up and not earning, my wife divorced me and tried to take the money and the kids. No need for details there, but I wound up with the kids and the money all got burned on attorneys. Amy had always been the one who had to stay home, so she and I started spending a lot of time together doing life things. Dan was glad to have someone he trusted with her and their kids, and despite me being half speed he felt good having someone around to keep her from tangling with the too bad crowd. Including Chris, which should have been a bigger red flag than it was, but I still hadn't come out of that king of the hill mentality. So the change was when I stopped traveling. Amy and I started living together, her husband Dan left permanently, I adopted her kids, and my wife divorced me, lost custody, and kept traveling, though her travels are all stateside. Dan doesn't have, and at this point doesn't want, a romantic relationship with anyone. I'm sure he still has a list for finding relief, but he is allergic to any sort of permanent situation. While he would never be willing to, and I don't want to, have me adopt his kids, they were 14 meters, 10 meters, and 8F when I met them, 18 meters, 14 meters, and 12F when I came home for good, and 22 meters, 18 meters, 16F now. He has given me power of attorney on their behalf and they all call me dad. So, there's that. And yes, I'm sure there are a lot of people who judge all of us for the choices and lifestyle we've made. But we are all human, and the things required of the people called on to do the things that we do lead to a lot of compromises. We make the decisions we do based on the things we know at the moment. Hindsight is only useful when you start looking forward again. Update, September 29, 2024. First, thank you all. It seems pretty shallow, but the validation and criticism I've gotten from the original post really helped me externalize and get some perspective. Also, some of you all are hilarious, some of you are compassionate and thoughtful, and others made me appreciate that no matter how stupid I get, somebody will find a way to outdo me. Leading with the headline, I had the conversation, I told her I am divorcing her, it went as badly as expected. She and Chris have not been physical, but we got to the heart of the reason she has been in touch with him. I am exhausted, but feel like I have some clarity of mind and purpose I have lacked for quite some time. I'll probably feel more chatty tomorrow, but for now that's what I have. Edit, more coherent update now that I've slept on it. In another reply in the thread below I have my take on what she told me, and her reasons, and I won't repeat it all. And yes, this is my opinion and what I choose to put on here, and I'm sure if she were on here she would have some reason to explain how none of it is her fault. Thinking about it, the pattern is clear. She even said as much herself, but we don't always hear what we don't want to hear. All of her relationships have come through our professional community in some capacity or another. She is attracted to the men in it, and the lifestyle, or at least this version of it. She married Dan because he's exciting and dangerous, and mostly absent. She got to have the money, the kids, an exciting husband, near total independence because he was only home maybe 3 or 4 weeks a year, and because of the circumstances she could also sleep around freely, so did Dan, to be clear. This was fine until Dan spent an extended period of time at home. There was a lot said there about how unfair, unreasonable it is when one of us comes back home with zero idea of how things work, or why, and start acting as if our opinion of what home life should or should not look like needs to be followed. I get that, actually. Long story short, she was never and is not now interested in a normal marriage. She wants and enjoys the lifestyle she had, first with Dan and then with me. It ended with Dan when he came home and tried to play house. It ended with me when I came home long term and tried to do the same thing. For that matter, that's what ended my marriage with my first wife, me coming home and acting like I owned the place rather than an occasional visitor. Amy did enjoy the more normal life with me but also wants the old excitement. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. So she reached back out to Chris because she did like what they did until Chris went too far and Dan was about to leave home again, leaving her alone with Chris around. Bonus excitement for her at the time because she got to literally watch me confront Chris at our home and send him away. But things have changed since then and the new circumstances mean she can hook up with Chris and do much more extreme things than she does with me while also having me at the house to keep Chris in check. Only catch is that it's no longer on the up and up, so she and Chris would have to sneak around. Maybe that made it more exciting? Almost works, but I clue in and realize they are in contact and unravel the whole thing before they have an opportunity to act on it. More, Chris definitely scratches a sexual itch than Dan and I did, do not. Dan and I are similar in that we can and do enjoy some level of BDSM, etc., but as it escalates it becomes much too similar to work things we don't want within a million miles of our homes. I'm happy to put the handcuffs on you and hold you down, but once we get to heavy impact play, cutting, or God help me CNC, the level of nope is so high it could put me off for weeks. So yeah, Chris is a better lover than I am in that regard. More, alcoholism. I know my short reply last night while tired was pretty ugly. Yes, there is truth there, but no, it isn't that simple. I was quoting her, but a lot of what she said was intended to be hurtful. I appreciate the kind questions and comments. I have tried medical marijuana, but it's a terrible fit for me. It made me physically less coordinated, but also made me feel more alert. The combination takes me from a level of hypervigilance that already requires medication, and that I am slowly improving with CBT, to flat out dangerous paranoia. So, hard pass. For whatever reason, I have little reaction to local anesthetics, so it's difficult to treat the pain locally. The solution has been stronger meds like opiates, but since I don't have a death wish nor any desire to inflict a drug-addicted dad on my children, I left those behind completely at the very first opportunity. So now I take a crap ton of ibuprofen, of course, right? Lidocaine patches, not particularly effective but better than nothing, biofreeze, weekly massage therapy, and yes, more nights than not I wind up drinking at bedtime in order to get to sleep. I've gotten a lot of advice about this over the last few years, and a lot of suggestions. I don't imagine anyone here has a better idea, but please feel free to make a suggestion. I'm 100% open to anything that works without turning me into a monster. Next story. Punched my late husband's affair partner when he showed up at my door demanding I stay quiet about their relationship. It felt like I stood up for myself after years of absay. My husband died and I have to pretend that he was a great man who loved me. I punched my late husband's affair partner when he showed up at my door demanding I stay quiet about their relationship. After years of abuse, it felt like finally standing up to my husband after my abusive husband died. I felt relieved and free. 3 months later, his secret male lover showed up at my house demanding I keep quiet about their affair. For the first time in my life, I stood up for myself and punched him. It felt like finally hitting back at my husband. Punched my late husband's affair partner when he showed up at my door demanding I stay quiet about their relationship. It felt like I stood up for myself after years of abuse. My husband passed away 3 months ago. I was relieved of that. He abused me financially, mentally and even physically. When I got pregnant, he convinced me to quit my job, saying that he would take care of me. I could never buy anything again without asking his permission. I couldn't even buy a cream without asking his permission, and he decided if I could or not. Even months ago that I had a little money of my own, I had to ask him for permission to buy something. What was mine was his and his was his. But I stayed there because I still loved him and I didn't have a place to go. I had too low self-esteem and let myself be stepped on. When I stopped loving him, he had already had his first affair. He made me believe that I was to blame for the affair because I didn't want to have sex months after my birth. That left me torn and I had to receive stitches. I was already planning my exit and saving money little by little while I was working selling things from home. Since he wouldn't let me work outside because he was very jealous, I wanted to pay for a lawyer. He was having another affair with a friend of his, which luckily kept him busier, and I didn't care anymore that he didn't pay attention to me. I wanted him to stay as far away as possible. I knew that man and he knew me. I could have made a big fuss, but I didn't. I kept quiet, planning my way out while he and that man slept together in secret. I only felt disgusted by my husband, nothing more. But my husband died in a way I never would have expected. He is now a martyr. When someone dies, all the sins of that person disappear. Because that's what even my family thinks. Those who knew about his affair and how he manipulated me are now talking about how good man he was, and we shouldn't insult someone who's dead. Everyone around me talks about how beautiful our relationship was. His family talks about what a great man he was and how always he focused on giving everything to me and our kid. His affair partner hugged me at the funeral, saying that my husband loved me. His friends told me what a great person he was. Everyone talks about how good but he was and how he is now an angel in heaven. And I have to pretend to be sad. The day he died, I cried a lot, but not out of sadness. I cried with relief and I felt free. It would have taken me too many years to save to pay for lawyers with my little store without him realizing that I was keeping money in secret. He would have kept everything. He would have made my life a hell, and I know it because he had told me so every time I stood for myself. But now I have the house. I have everything. I have the monthly money for being a widow. I have my children totally with me. I have started the psychologist. Everyone thinks that I do it to cope with my grief, but no, it is to overcome the abuse I suffered from him. It was really hard to pretend being sad in the funeral, but I did it for my child. I did it because now everything is over and I'm free. If I made a fuss, my ex-mill would have done something so that I wouldn't keep anything. They were just like him. But now I'm just a sad widow who needs help in their eyes. The silly widow who didn't know anything, but that's helping me to be free and have what I deserve. Sorry for the bad English. I use the traductor for many parts. Edit. We are not from an Islamic country, and here same-sex couples can live and marry freely. He just cheated on me with a man like he cheated on me with a woman. I guess he was bisexual. Comments where Op has replied, Organic 2003, I am stuck on his affair partner hugging you and telling you he loved you. She had the balls to show at the funeral. Damn, you have more control than I could have ever mustered. Cheers to a life full of fun and love. Oop, his affair partner was his football teammate and friend. He is a man. Thanks PM_me_happy_ thanks. Your husband had an affair with a man? Or another woman? You have a child? Or children? Oop. His first affair was with a woman, I think. The second with a man, of which I know. Maybe he had others that I don't know. For privacy reasons, I don't want to reveal the number of children, so I prefer to leave it at that. It's only one skeptical update. October 5, 2024. It's been several weeks since I last posted and I didn't expected my post to end in another places. Honestly, I had totally forgotten that I posted here, but a few days ago the lover and friend of my ex-husband. I have started calling my deceased husband that way. I don't want to be eternally tied to the idea that he is still my husband even after death. Death did me the favor of separating us, visited my house saying that he found my post. I didn't expect him to find this and it scared me a bit, but honestly there's nothing I can do about this anymore if someone has posted it elsewhere without asking me first. One of my sons let him in when I hadn't heard the doorbell, so I had no choice but to let him in to not make a drama in front of my kids, and I wanted to know what he was going to say. Once alone he told me that he knows that I know about him and my husband having an affair because of the post I sent to TikTok, although I never did any post on TikTok. That's why I think someone uploaded this there. He told me that my husband was not the best husband, but he was a great friend to everyone and a very hard-working man to everyone. That even his family misses him too much, and even though he had his mistakes in the past, that I should let go of the past and stop digging into it cause we're all better off like that. He was insisting for a while to such an extent that I felt intimidated by him to the point he reminded me of my husband, and it is the first time that I have that feeling with a man that is not my ex-husband. I can talk peacefully with him, but this situation made me feel on the verge of a panic attack because of his attitude. He's basically scared that I'll tell everything. He's gay and I don't know if he has a boyfriend, but maybe he does, and that's why he doesn't want me to say anything about their affair. I've been a submissive woman for years. My ex-husband turned me into a fearful woman that I wasn't before. He made me the kind of woman who was always going to put her head down, but when he died I felt so happy and liberated. I cried with relief for days. And when this man came into my house to tell me what to do, it was like seeing my ex-husband again, giving me instructions about how to behave and what to do. The man who knows very well that I was in an abusive relationship because he knew how my ex was and chose to sleep with him anyways. The man my husband made me cook for and then fucked him as if I were just a maid was at my house telling me that my ex was a good person and that I should shut my mouth. He was telling me what to do and I just punched his face. To be honest, I wanted to slap him, but for some reason I felt so angry that I hit him, and it felt like hitting my husband too. I don't regret it and I felt good. I yelled at him and told him to leave or I was going to tell everyone what happened. He ended up leaving the house and he has been quiet since that day. My main plan was just to shut my mouth and let go of the past, but that is one thing, and a totally different thing is that this man comes and wants to impose on me what to do as if I were a doll. Maybe my reaction wasn't the best, but I'm tired of people telling me to shut up. I never managed to say anything to my husband, and that day I felt that I somehow did that. I haven't told anyone yet, nor do I think about doing so, but if he does something I won't hesitate twice before this time whether to make a TikTok or post on Facebook talking about everything. With the issue of the house, with the economic crisis, I am not sure that anyone can afford what a house like this is worth, but for now I have focused on finally being able to get a better job in the future to be able to rent a house and be able to rent this house. That could be a really good way to have money. My other goal in the future is to buy a small piece of land, no matter how far it is. I want to have something that is my own and my children. My children don't miss their father too much and I understand them. It has taken me a while to get them a child psychologist, but recently they started to go to their sessions and they are doing well. I also go to a psychologist. I think the best thing I've done is to start making excuses for my ex-mill and my own family for not seeing them as often as before, and I've started the stage of cutting off contact little by little, making excuses with work or that we're not at home, although I still have to let my ex-mill come home from time to time. I think even my kids are happier when they see that my own mood is better. I doubt that many people are interested in this, but thank you for the messages I received. Although many do not understand that cultures and laws are different, and here buying a house or moving to the other side of a country in a month of impossible for many. Comments where Op has replied, llama_48,213, the audacity. He thinks you are still the maid. Good for you for showing your strength and sending him on his way. The nerve. I would strongly advise you to coach your children to not allow anyone in that house. Not just for AP if he returns. This includes the family you plan to distance yourself from. Oop, yes, they know that they should not open the door to strangers, but they open the door to people they know because my ex-husband always sent them to open the door for him. Skeptical, I have begun to explain to them that they should not open the door to anyone without telling me first, and now I leave everything with a lock and key.